In space, no one can hear you mini-review.
Alien was a 1982 release by Fox Video Games for the Atari 2600. Alien is a Pac-Man clone, where instead of ghosts and collecting dots, you're fleeing aliens while smashing their eggs. The gameplay is familiar with anyone who's played one of these maze games, albeit with a twist. Instead of 4 power pellets that are always in the same location, you can touch a pulsar to make the aliens weak for a short period. If you touch any of them during this time, they die, only to return shortly later. You also have a flamethrower, which will temporarily stun an alien that is chasing you. Or, if you use it while you're passing over a pulsar, it will make it so that you don't collect it and it can be used at a later time. In between each level is a bonus round, where you have 8 seconds to make it to the prize at the top while avoiding aliens passing by horizontally. Alien gets a feel of panic right, and although it's derivative, I think it's a solid entry into the book of Pac-Man clones. 7 out of 10.
Mini Review.
Astroblast was a 1982 release by M Network for the Atari 2600. A port of the Intellivision game Astro Smash, in Astroblast you play as a laser base fending off an infinite onslaught of falling rocks, spinners, pulsars, and UFOs. Scoring here is unique. For every enemy you destroy, you go up in points, but for every one you miss that hits the ground, you go down in points. The exception here being spinners. If a spinner hits the ground, you lose a life in addition to points. The goal is to get the highest peak score you can before you lose all of your lives. Astroblast is the only original 2600 game that gives you the option to play with either a joystick or paddles, and it's okay for a game here and there. If you're good, a single game can last a long time. 5 out of 10.
Mini Review.
Deadly Duck was a 1982 release by Fox Video Games for the Atari 2600. In Deadly Duck, you play as, you guessed it, a duck. This is a shooter, where for some reason you're being attacked by a bunch of crabs. The crabs attack you by grabbing bricks and dropping them. If they hit you, you lose a life. But even if they miss, their bricks land in the water and for a short time will hinder your movement. To add to the difficulty, as you progress through waves, an ever-increasing amount of dragonflies will appear above you, blocking your way. They're harmless enough, unless you accidentally shoot them. Then they get angry and drop bombs on you. Keep playing until you lose all your lives. Deadly Duck is a decent shooter with some good ideas, although I find the difficulty ramps up awfully quickly. 6 out of 10.
It's a mini review.
Demon Attack was a 1982 release by Imagic for the Atari 2600. In Demon Attack, you play as a bunker on a planet's surface, battling winged creatures as they attack you. One of a long line of shooters on the system, this is an excellent one with a rich atmosphere, added to by the haunting, pulsing sound design. Like most Atari shooters, enemies come in waves. At first they're not too difficult, but as waves progress they become more aggressive, with some of them splitting in half when you shoot them, and others diving at you. Blast away to get the highest score you can until you lose all your lives. Demon Attack may be simple, but it does everything right and is probably my favorite shooter on the system. 9 out of 10.
Mini Review.
Dragonfire was a 1982 release by Imagic for the Atari 2600. In Dragonfire, you play as a lone adventurer trying to make his fortune by testing his dexterity against a dragon guarding treasure. This game plays over 2 screens. The first has you crossing a bridge while dodging fireballs. Jump and crouch to avoid them to get to the other side. Once you pass that, you pop into the dragon's lair. The goal on this screen is to run around and collect all the treasure in the room while the dragon continues to try and blast you. If you manage to get them all, a door appears that will allow you to escape, just to start the 2 screens all over again with ever-increasing difficulty. Dragonfire is fun for a play now and again, but I always thought it fell just short of greatness. 7 out of 10.
Mini Review.
Frogs and Flies was a 1982 release by M Network for the Atari 2600. A port of Frog Bog on the Intellivision, Frogs and Flies pits you as a frog competing with another frog to see who can eat the most flies before the time runs out. Use a joystick to jump from lily pad to lily pad and press a button to stick your tongue out. Playing in 1 or 2 player modes, time your jumps to get the flies that fly above you, gaining points for each one that you catch. Visually, Frogs and Flies looks good on the 2600, and the gradual transition from day to night in the background is a nice touch. The game itself, though, is only fun for a couple plays before getting old. 6 out of 10.
Mini Review.
Gyruss was a 1984 release by Parker Brothers for the Atari 2600. A port of the popular arcade game, Gyruss is a circular shooter similar to Tempest, where you pilot a ship rotating around the playfield to shoot the enemies within. Simply move your ship with the joystick and shoot with the button. Enemies you'll encounter vary from simple asteroids that launch towards you to formations of ships that will fire in your direction. Due to the limited abilities of the system, enemies can sometimes look like incoherent blobs, especially when they're far away. But you can't deny that the musical rendition of Bach's Toccata and Fugue is pretty awesome to play to, and really is the reason to get this, even if it's at the expense of sound effects. It's fun to play now again, and the music really makes it pop. 7 out of 10.
It's a mini review.
Junior Pac-Man was a 1986 release for the Atari 2600. A port of the arcade game, Junior Pac-Man carries on the line of Pac-Man sequels. The core gameplay here is identical to what we're used to. Move around the maze collecting dots while dodging ghosts, collecting power pellets at opportune moments in order to turn the tide and chase a ghost back. New, however, is a larger maze that scrolls as you move through it, as well as a toy that bounces around the maze. Unlike other Pac-Man games, this bonus item isn't just for points. As it bounces around, it will convert every dot it crosses into a bigger dot worth more points. Don't let it cross a power pellet though, as it will remove its power. You're slowed by dots, but move fast through clear corridors. Use that to avoid ghosts. Junior Pac-Man is a solid evolution of the tried and true franchise, and great fun for those that enjoy the genre. 8 out of 10.
Mini review in space.
Pigs in Space was a 1983 release for the Atari 2600. A kid's game, Pigs in Space is a compilation of 3 mini-games that all emulate more popular titles. At the menu screen, move your joystick to select a pig and press the button to pick one of them. The first game is a Space Invaders clone, where you play as a pig with a finger cannon destroying wave upon wave of chickens while trying to hit the occasional space gonzo at the top of the screen. The second game is kinda like Freeway, and it's easily the weakest of the 3. Simply cross the playfield to get your pig to the spaceship at the top of the screen. The third game has you flying through a chasm full of gonzos with guns. You can shoot them before they get a chance to get you, and your gun fires in an arc to get them on their platforms. Otherwise, just try to avoid them and get as far as you can. Pigs in Space is a decent time waster with character, but not something that you'll come back to often. 5 out of 10.
Mini review.
Pressure Cooker was a 1983 release by Activision for the Atari 2600. In Pressure Cooker, you play as a chef assembling burgers for customers and then placing them in the proper order sections on the second screen. The playfield is simple. On the left you have a conveyor belt with an endless supply of burgers scrolling by, and on the right you have 5 dispensers for ingredients. The goal is to assemble burgers according to the order list below. Catch the right toppings as they fly towards you, and place them on the patty before finally catching the top bun and bringing the completed burger to the right section, either the green, red, or blue below. If an ingredient you don't need comes your way, hold the button before catching it and you'll send it back. Any mistakes, such as missing a catch or making a burger with the wrong ingredients, will result in wasted food, which will lose you performance points as represented by the number at the top left. When this hits 0, the game ends. Pressure Cooker was one of my favorites as a kid, and my rating may be influenced by that. It looks and plays great. 9 out of 10.
It's a mini review.
Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back was a 1982 release by Parker Brothers for the Atari 2600. In Empire Strikes Back, you play as a lone snowspeeder whose task it is to defend Echo Base against a never-ending horde of AT-ATs at the Battle of Hoth. Using the joystick to pilot your ship and the button to shoot, you start on the right and fly to the left to encounter your foe. There are no grappling hooks here. Simply shoot each AT-AT until it dies. They take a lot of shots, but every once in a while they'll reveal a small glowing section that, if you shoot it, the AT-AT will die immediately. They shoot back, and their shots can be hard to dodge, so be careful. Other game modes have AT-ATs that you can't fly through and homing missiles coming from them. Play until you lose all your ships or the Empire reaches your base. This is easily the best Star Wars game for the 2600, and highly recommended. 8 out of 10.
It's a mini review.
Tapeworm was a 1982 release by Spectravision for the Atari 2600. A twist on the classic Snake game, Tapeworm has you moving around a playfield collecting dots that make you longer. While you do this, you'll have to avoid hitting walls and, of course, yourself. So far, that's just Snake, but here there are a few enemies and twists to make things interesting. First is the beetle at the bottom of the screen. While you're collecting dots, you'll be in a race against this beetle as it tries to get to the fruit on the right. For every dot you get, you'll force the beetle back to the left, but if the beetle reaches the fruit, more dots will be added to the playfield that you need to get. Once you've collected enough dots, the fruit will appear at the side of your arena. Hit it to pass the level. To add to the mayhem, birds and spiders will dart across the screen as additional obstacles, and later levels turn the lights out between dots. Tapeworm is simple yet addictive. 8 out of 10. I fight for the mini review. Tron Deadly Discs was a 1983 release by M Network for the Atari 2600. A port of the Intellivision game of the same name, Tron Deadly Discs lets you fight for the user in one of the famous games from the Disney film Tron. The goal is to survive as long as you can while battling enemy warriors by throwing glowing discs at each other. Move around the arena with your joystick and fire with a button. If you miss, you can recall your disc at any time by pressing the button again. You can also close the doors that enemy warriors come through by shooting them, or you can use them to teleport to the opposite side of the arena. Stripped down from its Intellivision counterpart, Deadly Disc is still great fun on the 2600. 9 out of 10.
It's a mini review.
Vulture Attack was a 1982 release by K-Television for the Atari 2600. Imagine a world where Demon Attack kinda sucks, and you get Vulture Attack. This game takes a usual single-screen shooter format and pits you as a mustard bottle shooting down wave after wave of vultures. At the top of the screen, you'll see small birds in the distance waiting to join the fight, while you take on a few of them at a time in the actual playfield. Each time you kill a vulture, one from the distance pops in to replace it. Use the joystick to move and the button to shoot. Play until you lose all your lives. Vulture Attack does what it advertises, but lacks any personality. It's more of a collectible than something you'd want to play. 4 out of 10.